G'day groovers, rockers and in between. This is Vinyl Vibes. I'm your host, Jack Hodgins. Today we have a special show for you and we have a guest on that's a little different from our usual guest background. We have Terry Gibbs on the show today, and as of this interview he's 98 years old and has been in professional music for 77 years. Terry came to age during the big band era of the late 1930s and early 40s. He would go on to record and play with the likes of Benny Goodman, Woody Herman and Chubby Jackson, to name a few. Terry has been recording music since 1946, and in 1949 he wrote a song of which Nat King Cole recorded. He is one of the last people living having been a part of this era of music. Let's start off with your childhood. I mean, you're born in 1924 in Brooklyn. Do you remember much about your childhood?
I had a great childhood. I really did. I came from parents who escaped from Russia, just like the Jews escaped from the Nazis. But they were foreign people who thought one way, and I was the young American kid who thought my way, and they never stopped me from thinking my way, which was great. They were great parents.
Your father was a band leader. I mean, that would have been great growing up in such a musical family.
Well, I used to play Jewish weddings and what they call bar mitzvahs. I suppose you have them in Australia. And as a kid, I would go out in the middle of the floor when I was about 15, and my father, would piano player, always played accordion, and he'd come out and accompany me, and I played a horse staccato and some classical things, some Jewish things, but my brother was also probably the Art Blakey of all the Jewish drummers. He was the greatest, and also xylophone player. He was that good. Yes, I grew up in a musical family. Yes.
I've read too, Terry, that you went to the Paramount Theatre a lot as a kid and you saw the likes of Benny Goodman. I mean, do you remember much of those days?
Oh, I sure do. That was like big time for me. And then when I got a chance to play with Benny Goodman later on in life, it was like a dream come true, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what made him such a good band leader, do you think?
Well, I'm not sure if he was a good band leader. He was just a great clarinet player. I called him El Fargo because he was very foggy. He never really could remember anybody's name. He called everybody Pops. You name it, women, children, everybody. He called Ziggy Elman Pops. He called Harry James Pops. He didn't know their names. He couldn't remember their names.
Of course, there was the song he had, I think it was called Sing, Sing, Sing. I think that came out sometime in the 30s, 1937, something like that. And, I mean, looking back now, I mean, did you expect, like, music like that to still be listened to today? Because, I mean, people love that song even today.
You're right. It's still, Sing, Sing, Sing is a very popular thing. It's one of these things that no matter what band plays it, because the arrangement is so good, and Gene Krupa helped make it famous. He helped make drummers famous. At that time, I think Gene Krupa, maybe Joe Jones, and maybe Chick Webb also were considered the greatest drummers at that time. And I played drums those days. I played all the percussion instruments. I played xylophone, drums, timpani. You know, I was sort of a talented kid.
I've read that with the xylophone, I think your brother was playing it before you played it, and you used to like play it when he wasn't there, and then you eventually got into the amateur hour and won that. I mean, that must have been a great moment for you, winning the amateur hour.
But I was only 12 years old, so it didn't really mean that much to me. What meant something when I went on the road and I had a tutor, I looked out my dressing room window and I saw a bunch of kids playing ball, running in the street, escaped down the fire escape and played ball with them. And that was what meant more because, when you're 12 years old, you don't realize. I wasn't one of those kids who had like a swell head about it. It was something I did. It was great. I had fun doing it, but I also loved sports, you know.
What other songs were kind of, like, what other music were you kind of listening to at the time? I mean, we talked about Benny Goodman, but I mean, what was kind of popular at the time? Like, what music was popular at the time when you were kind of growing up?
Well, Tiny Khan and I used to go down to my basement and play with all the Count Basie records. When growing up, my favorite instrumentalists were Roy Eldridge and Lester Young.
I've read when you were 15 that you did a radio show with your father, and I was just wondering if you remember much about radio in those days and kind of doing that radio show with your father.
Yeah, I remember that radio show because we used to, like your neighborhood, that one block you lived on were all your friends. And so we used to play baseball against other other teams on the blocks, and then we used to also box against other teams, but all fair fighting, no dirty fighting. And I used to I used to like boxing, so I stuck out of my house about 9 o'clock in the morning, but I had to do a radio show with my father at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And when I was boxing, the short guy always fought the short guy. And the guy I fought, he put his head out, and I threw my right hand, and I hit him right on the top of his head, and my finger broke. And my finger went all the way back. If you can imagine, my whole finger went back to my hand. What we did, everybody, we stopped the fight, and everybody. So what we did, we made that somebody said, we'll take a handkerchief and put it on his hand, and the count of 3, we will pinch him very hard, and then we'll pull that thing out. And they did that to me. And everybody pinched me so hard that I really didn't feel the pain of my finger coming up. And I had to play a radio show. And when you're playing xylophone, hands are up, there's no sustaining notes on a xylophone, so you have to make that sustaining note by going da 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 da. And every time I did that, I cried because I was in such pain. And one of the old Jewish musicians came over to my father and said, "You know something, Mr. Gabeko," he says, "not only your son have great technique, but he plays with a lot of feeling." Because he cries when he plays. I wasn't crying because of music. I was playing because my finger was killing me.
16, 17, like around the late 30s, early 40s here. I mean, were big bands very popular with young people back then, like your age back then?
Oh, back in the late 30s and the 40s, big band. First of all, you got to understand that after the war, everybody was dance. Everybody was dance crazy. So every hotel in the United States that had a ballroom, and they all did, they would want bands to play for dance music, and there weren't enough band leaders. So what they do, they took Hal McIntyre out of Glenn Miller's band and gave him a band. They took Charlie Spivak, a trumpet player, and something. They took people out of bands and gave them bands, and there was music, there was happiness all over the country. Then when bebop started, and it became popular with the little bands, we've had little bands at that time.
And how did you listen to music back then? I mean, you had the records as well, but I imagine that radio and going to concerts was a big part of it too back in the...
Radio was the only way, television came out. I suppose we all had a 4-inch screen and watch what we could,
When did television come in for you guys? And I mean, like, was there very much like music on the TV, like when it first came?
I really don't think I watched much television when I was younger. I was on the road. The club owners sort of made me a band leader. They would have Monday would be the jam session night. They say, "Terry, you're the leader on this one." And little by little, if I could bring my own band in, they said, "Sure." And I've been a band leader ever since then, Jack.
How is that for you, Terry? I mean, being in music so long, I mean, like looking back now, I mean, like that's got to be special for you that you've been doing it for so long.
Well, I'm glad that I was born when I was, because the music of the 40s and 50s was the greatest music of all time. It was all the songs that were played by the guys like George Gershwin and Jerome Kern and Vic Young and all the American songbook writers, and they were the most greatest songs to play. Then music later on, got a little too free for me. I was from the school, if you can't tap your foot, I don't want it. It's not my style of music.
Because you served in World War II when you were 18, right? Am I right on that?
Yeah, I went in the Army when I was, I think it was 1942 or 43, I'm not sure. I went in the Army for 3 years, and I started out as a tank driver. They never tell you what they're going to do here. And I wound up in a band playing drums with a big orchestra making Army movie pictures and all. And by the way, there was a record strike when I was in the Army, so you didn't get a chance to hear any new records. And that's when Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and bebop became sort of famous. And when I came home on furlough, my best friend Tiny Khan said, you got to hear a new music called bebop. I said, that dumb word sounded dumb to me. Bebop. What the heck is bebop? It's like, Jack, I want you to hear a new music called Black Boogabaga. That's what it sounds like to me. And then he took me there, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie. I really sort of had like a minor nervous breakdown because I had all this technique all my life, and I loved Lester Young and Roy Eldridge, who played simple, and all of a sudden Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie were playing double time and triple time figures, and I didn't know what they were doing. I mean, it was something not until I got out of the Army and started going to jam sessions and getting of the syncopation and articulation and how they changed the chords around, and that for me, that was my whole life. I'm proud to say that I'm a bebopper.
Yeah.
At 99 years old, I'm still a bebopper.
Yeah.
That's my kind of music.
In saying that then, Terry, I mean, like, what do you think of music today then? I mean, like, yeah, what do you reckon? Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know what's happening. There's things like that. People who rap, it's called, there's no melody to it, so you can't call that music because there's no music there. There's no, something. For example, jazz musicians would record instrumentals, so the lyrics, even though it was beautiful, wasn't important. The melody was important. There's no melody in rap music. So you know what, Jack? Without even having put anybody down, it's not my cup of tea. Let me put it that way.
After your service in World War II, I think in 1946 it was, you started touring professionally as a musician. And I mean, how was that for you? I mean, that would have been a great moment, finally getting to tour professionally.
Oh, it was just a chance to play, Jack. And, you never cared about traveling at all, and you just can hardly wait to get on stage. You just wanted to play. Music was the most important thing in our lives those days. I
mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Terry. I think so. The first time that you recorded, in terms of in a studio, I think was with it was with Tiny Khan in the Aaron Sachs Quintet.
Aaron Sachs, right? That was the first time.
Do you remember much about that first time recording?
Yeah, well, we rehearsed in my house. I remember that Aaron and I, Aaron was a great clarinet player. He really would have, he was like almost in the class of a Buddy DeFranco in those days. He was very melodic, and he played more like Lester Young, but he sounded great. And we were at my house, I remember that. I don't really remember the studio those days.
And I mean, moving on from, we're talking about 1946 there, but of course, in 1947, you started touring with Chubby Jackson, and in your book, you describe him as the best and the worst band leader you've worked with. And I mean, take me through that. Like, yeah.
The best idea is that we had so much fun. We play, you get a schedule when you play a club. A half hour on, half hour off, 40 minutes on and 20 minutes off, We would sometimes play for an hour and a half. We played for an hour and a half. And so then take an intermission, and then who knows where everybody went. By the time they got back, it was supposed to be 20 minutes off. We were off 40 minutes. So, like I say, he was the best. He let us play. We played for, like I say, that was great. But he was terrible because we never played the same job twice. Because we never came back in time to play. We took the longest intermissions where we weren't supposed to,
Did you ever record with Chubby Jackson?
Yeah, we recorded some sides in Sweden. We did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, was recording in Sweden different to recording in America at the time?
I really don't know. We just go to the studio and record. By the way, my last maybe 30, 40 albums, I do live. I like live recordings. I don't like recording in the studio. I like playing live, and I don't want to hear the playbacks. I just want to play, and that's it.
I mean, in saying that too, I mean, in the 40s when you were recording, how did you guys record back then? Because I imagine you guys would have all just been in one room, and there'd be mics, like...
Oh.
Yeah.
Right next to each other. My last album that I did playing called 92 Years Young, I did right in my little office.
Yeah.
We our noses face each other. I want to see the musicians when we play because the vibrations you get off of somebody's feeling how you're playing when you're playing is great. It's important.
In recording in the 40s, I mean, were you like when you finished playing and like it was recorded? I mean, were you able to hear back straight away what you guys had done, like they can do now, or did you just had to record it and see what happened?
Oh yeah, but I really wasn't interested. I did my records and when I left, I didn't because it wasn't my record date. On my own record date, I have to go in. At the beginning, I didn't listen when I was young, or maybe in the 50s. I would record and leave it up to the producer and the recording guy to do a good job recording us. But later on in life, there was something I wanted to hear, and I would go in with the guy who mixes it, and I would tell him exactly what I want to hear: the bass. I want to hear every note. I like to hear the instruments up front. And there was something I wanted, And so when I went in, they gave me what I was looking for. Because I asked her.
And of course, too, I mean, in the 40s, I mean, when you guys were recording, I mean, were you recording to tape, or were you still using the records, like they would record straight to the disc kind of thing?
I think it was tape. I really wasn't even, to be honest, Jack, I really wasn't interested in how it was recorded. I had fun when played. That was it,
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you don't think of these things. You don't know the business to start with. But later on in life, you learn, and if you become a band leader, you have to have something in mind what you're looking for. And that's what I did. I had something in mind of a sound I wanted out of my band, and I make sure I got it. At
that time, what did it mean to be a good band leader?
Well, I think to know exactly what you're looking for. When I would do an album, I had a premise now. If they said, Terry, go ahead, you can record this, whatever, I would do what I wanted to do. I didn't do it for anybody but me. I recorded what I wanted to hear, hoping everybody would like it. But I play for me. When I'm on stage, I play exactly. I'm a band leader. I choose the songs I want to play, and I play. And music has got to be fun to me. Getting on stage has got to be fun to me.
And I've read too, I think sometime in the late 40s, Nat King Cole recorded one of your songs called Peaches. And how did he come to record? Yeah, how did he come to record the song? Well,
we were on tour with Woody Herman's band, and after the job, we did a tour about a few months, and after the show, this is when he had the trio. He was playing more than he was singing, and so after one of the places we played, the thing was over. Everybody was getting dressed in the bathroom. The band boy was taking the stage apart. And I just went over to the piano and I started doodling this song that I wrote when I was in Brooklyn. At home, it was something I was sitting playing. And Nat Cole came over and he said, well, what is that you're playing, Terry? And I said, that's a new song I wrote. And he said, can you play that again? I'd like to hear it. So I played it again and he picked it up immediately. And then he said, you mind if I recorded it? I should have said, no, that you can't record my song. Well, of course, I was like really shocked that he wanted me to record my song. And then I joined Sherry and recorded the same song later on.
And what did you think of Nat King Cole's version when it first came out? I mean, did you like his version of the song that you wrote?
That was a great piano player. He really was a great jazz player. I think if there was no Nat Cole, we would have no Oscar Peterson. Oscar Peterson had the same sound on that Nat Cole got on piano.
And I mean, you mentioned there that the song was composed while you were playing with Woody Herman, and I mean, and you mentioned there it was on tour. I mean, did you like touring back then? I mean, was it a lot of hard work back then, or what was touring back back then? Yeah.
Jack, you never thought about it. All you could do was hardly wait to get on stage. You didn't care how many miles you went. That was for what hotel you stayed on, how crummy it was if you didn't pay much money. All you looked for was to getting up on stage and getting a chance to play some jazz.
Yeah.
And I played for me, like I said, so I played for me to have fun. I try to make sense out of what I play and what I liked. Some nights it may be good to the audience, but it wasn't good to me, and I would go to my back to my room. That's really not good.
Moving out of the 40s now into like the around 1950, 1951. I mean, you started playing. We spoke about Benny Goodman a bit before, but of course you got to be in his band. I mean, how did you get to be with Benny Goodman? Did you call him up? Did he call you? Like, how did that all?
No, after I left the Woody Herman band, I sort of was, bebop wasn't a name that you want to be connected with, only because unfortunately Charlie Parker, who was hooked on dope for years, was connected with that name, and so if you were a bebopper, everybody thought that you were making dope and doing all those things. And so I didn't work for about 6 months. My first wife, myself, became the janitor of a building where we had to show apartments to people, you know. But anyway, I was out of work for 6 months, and I got a call from the Benny Goodman office that asked me if I wanted to join the band for a TV show. Heck yeah, you know. And I joined the group. He loved my sense of humor, and he loved my playing. But there are videos on YouTube of the TV shows we did. You know that, Jack?
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, no, I looked them up as soon as as soon as we booked in the interview. I was looking at them, and I mean, do you ever look back on those videos on YouTube and like reminisce about those days?
I look at that, but because. Looking back at people like Mundell Lowe was a good friend of mine, and Teddy Wilson became a real good friend of mine. It was wild to see what we did there. You know, let's face it, Benny Goodman was probably at one time famous statement of the President of the United States.
Yeah.
With dance music, he was like the king of swing.
Talking about the TV shows there, I heard that you guys played on the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, am I right on that?
Yeah, you know something else? I thought it was the Ed Sullivan Show, but it was the Kate Smith Show. I did the Ed Sullivan Show with Woody Herman's band.
When was that? Was that in the 40s then?
Oh, no, it was 50s. The same time I was with Benny Goodman. I did it with Benny Goodman, the Kate Smith Show with Benny Goodman, and did the Ed Sullivan Show with Woody Herman. That was done before. Okay. That's what I was with Woody Herman.
I mean, do you remember much about that Ed Sullivan Show performance with Woody Herman?
No. It was just another thing we did, you know. I remember a lot of the things that, because it was a one-time shot. I remember the Benny Goodman thing because we did 37 weeks of a TV show, you know.
Because you recorded with Benny Goodman as well. Because I think I found something on YouTube with you guys playing together. Am I right on that?
Yeah, we recorded. I think the new Benny Goodman Sextet.
Yeah, I mean, how was that? Like, do you remember much about like that? I guess.
Yeah, it was great. I love playing with Benny Goodman because first of all, he liked what I did, and he could swing you from here to Yugoslavia. He just could swing, you know.
I can't remember the exact year that this kind of happened, but maybe you'll be able to tell me. But of course, we were talking about the music of the 30s and 40s, and of course, you guys had the big old 78 records then, and I think around the 50s, the 33s, like the new vinyl 33s came out. I mean, how was that for you? Did you prefer the old 78s to the 33 like vinyls? Like, yeah, what did you reckon at that time?
Well, none of it bothered me, so long as the music was good. I just used to listen to the music, and I wasn't aware of what was better, which was better. If the band was good, and no matter what was recorded on, that's great. Cal Basie never made a bad record, and Benny Goodman never did. So no matter what they recorded on, it was.
Because you could fit more songs on the new 33s than the 78s, right? Because you could only fit like a song on each side. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when the CDs came out, you could put a certain amount of music. Then when the cassettes came out, you could put a lot more on there. But when the CDs came out, you could play a lot longer. You know, you could play longer songs if you wanted. But the thing was, with CDs, if you wanted to get airplay, the disc jockeys didn't like to play real long songs. They 5 minutes, 6 minutes was the longest they liked to play.
And in saying that then, I mean, during the 30s, 40s, and early 50s, I mean, did they ever play long songs on the radio? Like, were songs longer, like when they were playing on the radio?
No, they were actually, back at first, it had to be 3 minutes or 4 minutes, the longest, or you wouldn't get it played. And also on records, It had to be that short. If you go back and listen to the old Artie Shaw or Benny Goodman or any of them, they were all short songs.
After playing with Benny Goodman and of course, I think it was around 52 when you started the Terry Gibbs Sextet. Am I right on that?
Yeah, actually in the 50s. It started in New York City, where I had Don Elliott and Noah Fulton played vibes with me too, and Phil Urso and Billy Taylor and George Vivier and Sid Balkin. That was the first sextet I had. But then I had a little group for 4 years with that girl Terry Pollard, who was amazing. At 23 years old, she played as good as any male piano player and played vibes as good as any vibe player.
And I mean, I think with the Terry Gibbs Sextet, I think you recorded some albums. I think they were called Jazz Time USA Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and I think by the last one, Volume 3, we're talking around 1954 here, and I'm thinking that's kind of when rock and roll music started kind of getting going in America. And I mean, from your perspective, what did you think of rock and roll at the time, like Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, that kind of music?
Well, I didn't listen to it much, but you know what? It was called like sort of rhythm and blues, and it can make you tap your foot, you know. It later on when it became really called rock and roll, and they were banging and banging, and you know, that's when it got out of hand for me. But when it became with those guys like Chuck Berry, they played swing music, you know.
Because I think you formed the Dream Band in 1959. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me about how that came to be, because you did some really...
I didn't actually form a band. It was, if you read my autobiography, whoever read they know that it was a fluke. I got an idea for a record date where I was going to use 6 different band leaders, like Tommy Dorsey, Benny Goodman, Lionel Hampton, Cal Basie, too, Kellington, and I forget who else. Anyhow, 6 band leaders, and use 2 of theirs, Artie Shaw, by the way, and use 2 of the tunes that they made famous, and take something out of the song, like, for example, Artie Shaw's chorus on Stardust, which is very famous, and have it voiced out for the vibes and the saxophones. And that was, and once again, hired 6 different arrangers, and that was it. But there was a law that you couldn't rehearse for a record date. You got fined. Pete Rugolo got fined $1,000 for rehearsing for a record date, and I was playing a little club. Well, I mean, a big club, and with a quintet with a great band with Stan Levy on drums, Charlie Hayden on bass, Russ Freeman on piano, and Connie Gadoli myself. And I asked, I found out though that you could rehearse for a nightclub job, which paid $15. I realized that the reason that they didn't want you to rehearse for the record date was because they wanted you to make the money in the studios. They wanted you to go over time. And the union was strong then. But the nightclubs that paid $15, you could rehearse for. So I asked the guy, would you like to have a 15-piece band, 16-piece? Would you pay me for 5 guys? I don't care. You got enough money to pay them, pay them. And I had enough money to pay everybody. And so we rehearsed, and we set up the stage in that place, and we let people know we were going to play there that night, you know, your rehearsal. And I'm telling you, Jack, you could not get in the club. It was like 300 people packed in the club. And we figured, well, it was a fluke. We'll try it again next week. And once again, it started out with about 20, 30 people, and we came out of the band room, and there were like 300 people. I said, wait a minute, I just made a joke. We're starting a band tonight. And it went on like that every Sunday, and then we had it Monday, and then we went 5 days a week, and you couldn't get in the club. It was just a fluke, and we were having more fun than the audience. Because I had a rule, there's no drinking off the bandstand. If you want to drink, you got to be on stage so we can have a party, you know. So that's how the Dream Band started.
In the late 50s, early 60s, rock and roll records are starting to become more popular. And in the 60s, people like the Beatles are becoming more popular. I mean, were big bands still, was it still easy for you to get work, as a big band kind of thing, even though...
Oh, I wasn't looking to work. I wasn't looking to work with the band. I wasn't looking to leave town or anything with that band. We were just having fun. I really didn't care. I wasn't doing it for anybody for me. I was having fun, losing money. Jack, that year, I lost $20,000, and that's like losing $200,000 today. But I never had so much fun in my life because the place was packed. The music was great. I had great arrangers writing for the band, and I wound up with just 3 arrangers after a while because guys like Marty Page got very busy writing. Everybody started to get famous out of that band. Mel Lewis, the drummer, he became ultra famous and went to New York and started a band with Thad Jones. But it all happened out of that band.
I mean, moving forward in the timeline a bit, moving forward a few years here, during the 70s, I think you played on a Leonard Cohen album and a John Lennon album. Am I correct on that?
I know. I did a record date for Phil Spector with my first one for John Lennon on the record date. I didn't do that kind of work. I didn't want to do what they call studio work. But Phil Spector paid me more money than I ever got in my life. I had nothing to do at all but just show up and just doodle around with the rest of the rhythm section.
What was he like as a producer? Do you remember much about him?
He was nuts. He was every time I come in, he'd sing the Steve Allen theme song because I was the musical director. He'd sing the song, and when Connie Condoli would come in, he would sing the Johnny Carson theme song. But some while. There was never the music that we had to play. It was just chord changes and just do what you want to do. He left it up to everybody to do what they want to do. And Phil Spector hired more jazz musicians. The first record date I went to, because I didn't want to go. But the first record with John Lennon, there was Connie Condoli and Don Menza and Nino Tempo, all these guys, Joe Sample, Pete Jolly, all jazz musicians in town here. He hired a lot of jazz musicians. The drummers were rock and roll drummers, and one of them, Hal Blaine, who was very famous, he used to play with big bands. He played with Patti Page, he played with Cortado. So he knew big bands, but he was like the rock and roll king of the drum,
Did you get to meet John Lennon when doing that record?
No, I didn't talk to him, no.
Yeah, well, do you recall, Terry, what tracks you played on that album at all?
I don't remember one thing I did there. I don't remember it. It wasn't memorable. I just went in and he paid me thousands of dollars to do what I would call my grandmother could have done.
Okay, so quite simple music then. He loved Phil Spector was a big fan of mine and just loved jazz. And he used to just want me on the record date, Of course, too, I wanted to bring this up. I think it's important. Your book, you've mentioned it a few times. I think that came out in 2003. Good Vibes, Life in Jazz. What inspired you to write down your story on paper and get a book out there? What inspired that?
I've been asked a lot of times. And then I met this guy, Terry Gibbs, who's a jazz historian, and he said, I've been asked, I said, why don't you accept one of them? I'll sit with you, because he knew more about me. Jazz historians know more about you than you know about yourself, because that's their job. They write biographies, But with my autobiography, Terry sat with me for a whole year, checked out every story that I wrote. I wrote every word in that book. I edited it myself, or it wouldn't have been my autobiography. It was me doing everything. Otherwise, but it was fun doing. We spent the whole year, and he reminded me, like I said, he was a jazz historian, and he did one thing that I was not going to do, Jack. I was going to start out by starting out with the big names, Benny Goodman, Charlie Parker, Sweet Howard, But he said, you got to write about your childhood. And I didn't realize, after writing about my childhood, that anybody who buys my book directly, their childhood was the same way as mine. They played in the streets. They did this. They did that. I had an aunt that was crazy. Somebody has an uncle that was crazy, So they can relate to my childhood.
Is the book still available? Like, can you get?
Oh yes, it is. It's still available and selling all over the world.
Yeah, your latest record came out in 2017. 92 years young, jamming at the Gibbs house. What? I think you mentioned that you recorded that pretty much just live. It was just a jam at your house, right? Just live. Yeah.
Well, when the record, this record company, Wailing City Sounds, recorded my son about 11 times. My son went to #1 with his albums on the jazz charts 5 years in a row, and this guy who owns a company. He's a multimillionaire in the cyber optic business, and he had the record company as a hobby. He loved jazz, and and when he went to college, he said he was a big fan of mine. And he kept asking me to record because every time my son would record, and he'd be at my house visiting, he would talk to him. So finally, this one time, my son was visiting and talking. He said, "Let me talk to your dad." So I talked to him. He said, "Why don't you do an album for me?" He says, I said, I'll do one, but I'm not going to a studio with those earphones. You want me to do an album? I'll do a jam session in my house. He says, what would you play? I don't know. It's a jam session. I'll ask the guys if they know this song. We'll play it. If not, we'll play something else. I'll make them a song. It's a jam session. Anyhow, Jack, He hired the guys because I was going on 92 years old. He hired the guys for 4 days because you can get tired. And I was retired for a year before that. And I can get tired, So he hired the guys for 4 days, and this is all live, no listening to playbacks. We recorded 34 songs in the 4 days.
And that's great, Terry. Know that you did that album, and is there any chance of another? I have a new album that just came out 2 weeks ago. I'll tell you what it is. The whole story behind it, but you have to buy the album because there's a booklet that I wrote by liner notes. Or you can go on my internet if they're my friends that go on my internet. They can. The whole thing is on there. The thing is called the Terry Gibbs Legacy Band, and it's titled the Terry Gibbs Songbooks. This is 15 songs that I recorded. I write. I'm an old school writer. I've written 200 compositions I recorded, but I'm from the American songbook writer. I'm George Gershwin, Victor Young, Cole Porter. Those are my people. I try to write like. And so the guy who wrote Arthur Hamilton, you may not know that name, but he wrote "Cry Me a River," which is a very famous song. He's one of the writers that called me that they liked my songs. They wrote some lyrics. Bobby Troop, who wrote Route 66, wrote some lyrics, and Steve Allen and some other guy wrote some for the Sting. And so I wrote 15, and they took 15 of my songs with lyrics, and I found a young singer that I liked, and also added 2 great tenor players. I'm a Lester Young freak. Yeah, he's the type of tenor player I work with. Woody Herman's band with Stan Getz, Zoot Sims, and Al Cohen, and Richard Kamuka, Bill Perkins in my band. I like the Lester Young feel. So I got Scott Hamilton on tenor and Harry Allen on tenor, and they sound great. I want to thank you so much for making the time to be on the show. I mean, it's really been a fantastic experience to be able to talk to you about your time in music. It's just thank you so much for making the time. Yeah, Jack, it's always fun. I always have fun talking about what I've done. And I do a lot of Zoom shows giving lessons to people who want to know about questions. I don't charge anything for it. But all over the world, I get called to do Zoom shows with young kids who want to know about Mel Lewis. They want to know about the Dream Band. They want to know about what I did with Vibe. And I'll spend an hour with anybody who wants to do a Zoom show if I have the time.
And I don't charge anybody. It's fun talking about it, you know. All they have to do is email, go to my website or email, they find out my thing and tell me they want to do a Zoom show, and I email and I get back to them, or I have the person who handles my website, he'll get back and tell them what time I'm available, and then they send me a link that I can press my mouse on, and cliche, away we go, you know.
That was jazz legend, 98-year-old Terry Gibbs. To keep up with Terry, you can head to his website at terrygibbs.net. Remember to share this episode with other music fans, and if you really enjoyed this edition, let us know. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Vinyl Vibes, and to all you music lovers out there, stay groovy.